right, we're here today with Leon Zhang. Leon, thank you for coming in for the podcast.
Thank you, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's always been, I've always wanted to come in the podcast ever since listening to you. It was pretty sure this fall, I came to hear about the podcast when I was with one of my friends, Jamie Howard, and he introduced me to the podcast, and I listened to a few couple episodes.
Yeah, we need to get Jamie on. Jamie has been interested for a while now, and he's definitely going to come on this spring. But I'm glad that you've listened to a few episodes and you like it. And yeah, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's an honor too. Yeah.
So I didn't know you were a senior. So tell me a little bit about your senior year.
Yeah. So senior year has been really great. It's been it's kind of stressful, but also liberating at the same time, because you have that sense of you're waiting, especially right now, because I haven't gotten my decision yet. But you're waiting, but you're also you feel like you're free already.
You feel like you're free.
You feel like you're liberating, right? Because you're done with your applications.
Yeah. What is it like to be a second semester senior when everything's in and grades don't really count and you're just trying to get to May and enjoy yourself?
Yeah, there is definitely a sense of having a lot of time in your hands. You want to try new things. You want to build better relationships with the people around you, and being a second semester senior is just, and there's definitely a lot of people have noticed senioritis among definitely hits for some people,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, I think definitely I've really enjoyed in my classes just learning for the sake of learning as opposed to for the grades, because now it's not that grades don't matter right now, but in my classes, which I'm taking 6 of, it's really you're just learning the stuff that you're really interested in always.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best. And that's sort of what we always want as teachers, is for the students to learn for the sake of learning. But there's always that looming college admissions process where you actually do need the grades to apply. And it's a difficult situation, but that's great. And 6 classes is a lot. That's overzealous as a senior.
Yeah, I did reconsider, but one of my classes, 2 of my classes actually are GOA classes, which I took in my second semester. I decided to take on an extra class because it was one I was really interested in, and it was called Religion in Society, and it delved into some aspects of learning that I've always been interested in.
So who teaches the GOA stuff?
So the GOA is it's a global online academy, and it's directed by Mr. Fitzgibbon. He's the main site director for everything at Gilman, and it's a big connection with a bunch of other schools across the world, and it's really amazing because you get to learn with people on the other side of the world, and it's the amount I think the biggest benefit I've gotten from it is the diversity perspectives.
How many students are in a given class for GOA?
In a given class, well, it varies from class to class. In my first semester class, GOA class, which was international relations, I think there were about it's about the size of a Gilman class. But in my religion and society class, which is this semester, I think there were only 9 people or so. And then there also have a macroeconomics class, which is that has a lot more people because a lot of people are more interested in that.
And is it over Zoom? And do you, once you know some of your classmates in these GOA classes, do you keep in touch with them maybe outside of the online classroom?
Yeah, so it uses a messaging platform called Twist, and a majority of it is asynchronous. So every week there's an assigned amount of work, and you do asynchronous work. And then every other week you have a Zoom call with either a partner or with the teacher. And you have more collaborative assignments, and that's really my favorite part about it, yeah.
Oh, nice. That's great. That's what class are you taking here? I see you walking over to Bryn Mawr.
Oh, yeah. That's a computer science class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, computer science class, yeah.
Is that what you're into? What is your area of focus you think next year when you go to college?
Yeah,
What do you
definitely.
like?
For me, I've always been interested in international politics and classics, Latin. These are two are like basically my main things. And since I'm religious and I've also considered um, having a studying like religion in college, and that's why I'm taking the religion and society course. So yeah, either international politics, relations, classics in Latin, which I feel like is also very important, and religion. These are like three main prospects, and I'm still like relatively undecided.
Good for you. I know that does Mr. Goldman teach a religion class here, or
He does, yeah.
has he?
I wasn't able to get into a few of his like the world religions courses. I think they had a conflict with some of my other courses because I wanted to take like so many courses, but that I wasn't able to like fit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, sick. You've got a full schedule, which is
yeah,
good.
yeah. It's good. It's good.
Most seniors are trying to get out of classes.
It's true, yeah. But and yeah, and as I said before, I wanted to like approach it not like as like oh I'm taking up so many like grades that I need to get higher. It's
Right.
more like yeah,
Trying to learn as much as you can.
yeah.
I actually did the same thing. I think my senior year, I took human anatomy, which I've always been glad I took that class. My mom wanted me to take that because she was on her way to become a doctor when she was younger, and she's like, you got to learn about the human body. It's so interesting and it's so important. And I've always been glad I took that human anatomy class my senior year of high school because, it's why not? You're taking advantage of the opportunities you have.
That's the opportunity to learn more, especially take advantage of it. Yeah.
So how long have you gone to Gilman?
So I'm a four-year Gilman. So I came to Gilman in ninth grade during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. Same as a lot of people. I came from Calvert.
Okay.
So a lot of Calvert kids come to Gilman. So yeah.
Yeah. It's the pipeline, the Calvert Gilman pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like coming here during COVID?
It was for me it was actually surprisingly like a relatively smooth transition for me because we already had like virtual stuff going on in like the last few months of middle school, and so virtual I think I wasn't able to connect and obviously as much with my new classmates, but I think I still did make a lot of things all online. One of my first friends, as I said before, Jamie Howard, was met through online, and we talked a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a weird time. I remember I was thinking about it the other day, just teaching online. It was basically just trying to make sure everyone in your class on Zoom was doing okay because it was so strange in the world and no one really knew what was going on. And, mentally, I was just trying to make sure that, hey guys, how you doing? Like, you doing all right today? You get outside a little bit? Did you take care of yourself? Did you wake up, make your bed? Right? That was sort of the main focus of my classes during COVID. I feel like we did some reading, we did some learning, but we also just checked in on each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about your interest in religion because that's fascinating. That's something that is important to you and something that you might want to study next year. Where did that start?
Well, so I've always been a Buddhist. As I'm a Buddhist, I've always been a Buddhist. It's been a very like central part of my entire identity. We just came back from David Netzer's senior speech. If his central identity is as a Jewish, for me it's definitely as a Buddhist.
Okay.
The specific sect of Buddhism that I practice is Pure Land Buddhism. Essentially, it's a sect that emphasizes the chanting of a certain Buddha. His name is Amitabha Buddha, and this is like the central identity, like the central practice of this sect of Buddhism.
So what is the purpose behind the chanting? That's interesting.
Yeah. So the chanting is it means infinite light, and it's kind of a way to like focus your energy into like the chanting instead of, if you've heard of Zen meditation, it's basically Zen is basically thinking of like nothing, and that's extremely hard to do, extremely hard to do for like extended periods of time. So basically what Pure Land does is it focuses the energy instead of thinking of nothing to thinking of, or chanting, or using the chanting as like a substitute to. But it also has a certain meaning behind it. Like it means infinite light, and it's like the way I think of it is like trying to like pour, and I use it in my everyday life when I'm chanting. I have these beads right here that I use to like keep track of like chants and stuff.
Interesting. So to count the
Yes.
chants?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty.
How often do you chant? Every day in meditation?
Yes. So every day, it doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. It's like it's always like by me within times of like distress or times of like happiness. Um, it's kind of a way to like have the like kind of Buddha around you always and stuff.
Have you ever done this in a group setting, or is it more individualized, like you meditate by yourself, or do you meditate in a group?
So I have in like a long time, like when I was little, when I went to China, I went to like a temple, where we would have these like group chants, where you walk in like a circle, and it's not anything like, um, so you would walk in a circle and like Buddhist monks would be chanting, but in America, I'm the only Buddhist I've known in America, so I haven't gotten a lot of opportunities or to I haven't like been in contact with any other Buddhists, so it's obvious it's individualized, like individual chanting.
And is it something that your family is, like, does this come from your family? It's very important to your family, and that's where you learned it and picked it up and got into it.
Yeah. So, how I became a Buddhist was when I was like four. When I was four. Um, so my mom is Buddhist, and she wasn't a Buddhist her entire life. She became Buddhist when she was older and she learned about it. And my dad is he doesn't have a particular religious affiliation, but he is more, his family comes from some people in China, from ancient Persia, so they're called the Hui people. So they're an Islamic people in China. So my family background comes from Islam, and my mom is Buddhist. And how I became Buddhist was, so my mom, she showed me a video when I was four, and it was like about baby cows like being pulled from their mothers and being slaughtered. And when I was little, I think I like cried, and I just became Buddhist, and I just hear it ever since.
Interesting. In that one moment after watching that
Yeah, I don't
video.
know. Maybe it was like fate or something, but yeah.
What's the connection between that video and Buddhism?
So Buddhism has a very like strong, like peaceful, um, not hurting animals, and the video just really like inspired. Like the video had like I was really like, I felt like sympathy and stuff.
Yeah.
Sympathy. And it's, yeah.
What are some of the other practices and aspects, maybe belief systems of your particular sect's form of Buddhism?
So, like beliefs. So,
Or practices, like you talked about the chanting, you talked about the beads on your wrist.
yeah.
Other rituals and forms of, I guess, belief.
So I guess
that's particular to your sect.
We have we also like read out the sutras, kind of like reading out like in Western traditions, you would read out the Bible or read out the Torah, and we would like read out these like sutras. Also, you would kind of like kneel, and we have like a small like shrine dedicated with statues, and it's a very small place. It's a small place of worship. We wouldn't go to like a temple because there aren't any, and yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your trip to China that you mentioned earlier and going to China. When did you do that and what was that like?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, um, when I was little, I mean, I always had um, my mom always taught me about like the traditions of our culture and going to China. It was when I was pretty young. The last time I went was 6 years ago, I believe, and it's mostly because of COVID. We haven't been able to go back, and we visit our family. I think I learned a lot more about my family background. Um, my background as we went to my mom's old like home when she was young. She lives in the northernmost province in Manchuria, and it's a very rural area. I saw like very rural area, and we also went to my dad's, where she lived in like a kind of a poor sector of the city.
And have your parents ever talked to you about how they came to America and met each other and came over here?
So they met in China, and my parents they came over kind of for like education purposes, and yeah.
What has it been like for you growing up here in Baltimore?
Um, Growing up, I've always been have like the kind of like side between American and Chinese, and a lot of people have that. A lot of people have that. But a lot of people like kind of go in within their like American side, their American culture, and um, for me, it really hasn't been different. I feel like that I would be able to like I have a certain sense more of like a Chinese. I feel like I would have been more different
Hmm.
as living in America than I would have been in China. Other than that, like the education system or like learning going to school in America, that obviously is something that is can't be changed. But in terms of like learning the Chinese language and learning the culture, everything is relatively. I feel like they stay the same because of how like well my parents taught me.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, going to a place like Gilman and education and, even the GOA classes that you were talking about, the access to classes that are being offered all over the world. I mean, it just opens up so much for you coming to this particular school, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. As a senior, are you bummed to leave? Are you excited? What's kind of the emotional state in February of senior year?
I'm definitely like the bonds I made over everything, but I'm also really excited to meet a lot of like really like stimulating like intellectually stimulating people that could like help me like expand my boundaries a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of school are you looking for? Like where would you like to go to school next year?
So I prefer a like in terms of like the culture,
Yeah,
um
or the size
the
or
size, the
location.
location, like when I look at schools, the top priority for me was definitely like the culture. I know I've said culture like so many times, but like um like the environment, I guess more of the thing, the academic environment, and like how the people are mainly like if are people collaborative, are people like competitive. um for me, I really want like collaborative environment,
Hmm.
and like where everyone kind of like is their own like community and supportive of each other. Yeah.
Has the college application process been pretty grueling, pretty difficult all year long?
It's been tough. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
been um, writing essays and um, writing essays and having that like kind of like reflection process is very it's been you really need to like dig really deep down
Yeah.
within yourself to kind of find that. And for me, things I wrote about were sometimes obvious, but sometimes also but like once you have like put things down on paper and you like try to like find more, it becomes harder.
For sure, for sure. It's
Yeah.
such a challenge. I've asked a couple people who have come on here about their college essays because I've been working my junior English classes to write stronger personal essays in preparation for the college experience and the supplemental essays. How did you figure out what you wanted to write about, and what did you end up deciding? Like, what subjects did you decide to write about?
Yeah, so in terms of my supplemental essays, I really kind of like focused on, the my like first of all my academic interests, and second of all kind of and I also really focused on kind of my identity, because this year with there have been a lot of like diversity essays. And they like colleges, that's what they're called, like quote unquote diversity essays, because a lot of them are phrased like what aspects of your identity allow you to like make a contribution to our college campus. And for me, I wrote about a lot of one of my religion, and kind of how it's one supported me, but also allowed me to like have a better impact like in an academic environment too. So yeah.
For reasons outside of just the fact that there aren't maybe many Buddhists writing an essay on that aspect of your religion, or for other reasons do you think that you would contribute to a school community because of your religious background?
Yeah, so in my main essay, my Common App, I wrote about how my religion kind of, I wrote about like from my start of how I thought my religion was like being passive, because Buddhism has like the stereotype of being very peaceful and passive and not doing anything.
Right.
But then slowly throughout like my journey through high school, I like felt like I wasn't doing kind of like enough, and that and then later, because through a lot of lessons through my mother, that I kind of was taught to have a more active role within my community, and how Buddhism really wasn't. I really focused on like the Amitofo part, and I focused on like the infinite light, and I said that the infinite light part really like that. What that really means is to like shine the infinite light upon like and like help as many people as you can. Like take an active role in your community.
Interesting. Okay, so the way most people think about Buddhism who aren't familiar with it think, oh, sitting in a room and meditating and being quiet and passive, as you said, and maybe reframing that to what it really means to you, which is participating, being active, helping other people, involving yourself. Coming on the podcast, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah.
I was glad that you reached out and wanted to come on.
Absolutely.
And talk about this.
Yeah, and I think that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that, that meditating isn't like an active thing. I feel like in order to better others, you need to better yourself first, and I think that's also one of the key tenets of Buddhism, and that's what so you first need to better yourself, and then you need to better like slowly move forward to like your immediate community, and then your like and then a larger community. And what I said is actually from a Confucianist text, that you first need to like better small, and then grow large.
So let's get to your book recommendation, Orientalism, Edward Said, and where did you find this book, and what has been maybe sticking out to you in your reading of it?
Yeah, so I found this book actually through one of my previous GOA classes with international relations, and it was recommended to me as like one of the most fundamental like books that the college students had to read, especially in a humanities course, because and it's basically about this semi like mythical construct that that the like Western scientists, philosophers, like academic studies have imposed on like the East, and it draws back to like a long time ago, of like probably even before colonialism, where people had like you know how people had like this idea of like exotic Asia,
Hmm.
um, Asia as being like this like crazy place that everyone wanted. Um, People like heard tales about like how like where the silk was from, or the um, um, where the China was from, these things, and people really just um, and Said kind of like goes into this and he defines or the word Orientalism in a lot of in three ways. I think I remember. The first way is the academic way, where I just talked about, where like studies, people would study the East as a Westerner without even like visiting the East,
Hmm.
and people would just like based off any assumption they could to kind of portray the East in ways they could, and it's obviously very very biased and very um, like a lot of the colonialism and imperialism would be like justified through some of these like experts on the Oriental world, when a lot of them haven't even. And Said says that in order to have like a good understanding, you need to have it face to face, vis-a-vis. And the second thing that he mentions is kind of like the Orientalism as a definition of like being opposed to the West. So he said Orient is opposite to the Occident,
Hmm.
which means so Orient means the Latin word for rising, and Occident means it means falling, and these were two words that like represented the East and the West, and Orientalism was basically a idea that the Westerners created to like to counter like them, like this is everything that we shouldn't be. This is everything that we shouldn't be. This is and they like portrayed the East as a um, in a different way to the West, so they could. Um, so if anything, Orientalism is more about the West than it is about the East.
And the way the West perceives the culture, the people of the East, and maybe oversimplifies or caricaturizes the East in general,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the third one that he says is more like concrete. It's more materialistic. It's about the um, it's about like the actual like institutions that were like served to the like oppress the people under colonial rule. And Edward Said, he's a Palestinian American activist. He grew up in Palestine under like an Israeli occupation, and he he went to America and got educated, and he talks about he mainly focuses Oriental on the Middle Eastern world because it's been so like prevalent within like today's like news lines and stuff. Um, but I also think that it's pretty obvious that this can also be applied to Southeast Asia, East Asia, and every part of the East, everything east of Europe, really.
What is the most compelling aspect of this argument? Because it's really an argument, right,
It
that
is, yeah.
Said constructs here. What is most compelling to you?
For me, definitely, it's just the East kind of being because over like history, there's this idea of like a few kinds of like violences. So there's like culture violence and direct violence, and I've kind of seen that whatever violence that happens in the world, they're either like condemned or they're kind of condemned or accepted, and when they're accepted, they're usually supported by different kinds of like cultural norms that you would be expected. For like the most obvious example, I think would be like the slave trade. People and scientists would justify the slave trade um, by kinds of people would justify it by scientific means,
Hmm.
judging people by that people are inferior to because um, people are inferior because of different like scientific studies, and we also know that Nazi Germany has had numerous amounts of like horrifying um, kind of experiments and stuff. And these were like academic studies, exactly what Said is talking about, and in like demonizing in like the Eastern peoples.
So it's combining the scientific and the cultural aspect and, you know, different fields of study in order to form this, I guess, perception or simplification of an entire group of people is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, Orientalism is really it's a very broad term. It's not like it means scientific, cultural, historical, political. It encompasses all of these aspects into one, regarding the East and the West kind of.
Yeah, what I think about is actually I was just in my U.S. history class and we were talking about manifest destiny and this idea of moving west and the way, you know, white settlers were treating Native Americans who occupied, like the Plains Indians who occupied pretty much majority of the Midwest and the West, in order to occupy that land, that territory. There was a lot of, I guess you could say it's propaganda. I mean, the way that people saw the West and its beauty and, you know, come out here and go to Oregon and just take the Oregon Trail out there and you could set up shop and, you know, build a family and build a community out there. While that was true in some ways, it also caricaturized or simplified the fact that there were a lot of hardships out there too, and there were people living out there who were sort of in the way of that. And I think, you know, from what I've read about Orientalism and what I've studied in this U.S. history class that I'm teaching is just in order to get people to do certain things, you know, colonialism or, you know, settling different places, there's got to be a story that's told. And sometimes that story is oversimplified in order to motivate people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that when you mentioned manifest destiny, I was reminded of in the third chapter of his book where he went on like the types of Orientalism that could happen. There's like the latent Orientalism, which is a type of Orientalism that just like the raw ideas of these like studies that come out and they're just kind of like sitting there waiting to be like used. And then there's also a manifest Orientalism, which is very like reminiscent of the manifest destiny. And manifest Orientalism is these ideas being put into action in forms of kind of oppression and like structural, like institutional, like these systems that kind of put the East like below the West.
And it's interesting too, just thinking about the perpetrator of these ideas is always, you know, even like the Nazis or, you know, other colonialist things that have happened in history. Of these people have thought that what they're doing is right, you know, justified for all of these ways. I have all this information behind me, this history, these scientific studies. So that should allow me to go out into the world and do what I need to do, right? So it's all justified in the perpetrator's mind.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of hard to, and it's like impossible to also identify the perpetrator of like these actions because it's like a system, really. It's a system of ideas, and so you can't like pinpoint one person that like did all this.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about the painting on the front of this book, which I find is interesting. And it's when you look up Orientalism, it's like the visual image that comes up is this painting called the Snake Charmer. And if you wouldn't mind just holding it up to the camera. Thank you. Yeah. It's just interesting because Said doesn't mention this painting in the book, but it is a symbol of really what he's talking about in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I did some. I looked into the painting a little bit, and yeah, as you mentioned, he doesn't mention it in the book, but he said he chose the painting for a very specific purpose, in representing it's a perfect representation of how the West tries to represent the East for itself. That actually reminds me that the first one of the first quotes of the book, it says, "The East cannot be represented. The East cannot represent itself. It must be represented." So, this is an example of, I believe, Jean-Léon Gérôme. He was a French painter, and he drew this painting that so if you see, there's the here, it shows like it's attempting to show like the barbarism and like the backwardsness of like these Middle Eastern cultures, and the walls are, I think, are supposed to represent it, like the fantastic, like exotic, like art and imagery like that Westerners like desire, like that desire of these like exotic like cultures, but then the actual people that they portray in a very like dim light, they're like very lazy, and they also see them the boy who isn't wearing clothes, so it's seen as very backwards. Absolutely.
What was I going to say about this painting? Yeah, for me, I mean, when you told me you were bringing this book, I did some research into it and I read a little bit about it, and the main thing that I picked out was just this idea of stereotype, right? It's stereotyping groups of people. So even in the painting, you see the people who we're looking at on the back wall, right? That don't notice the art behind them, and they're just looking for their entertainment at the snake charmer. They're cast in a stereotypical sort of unidimensional way, right?
Yeah. So they're just absolutely, like these stereotypes, these like the cultural like aspects that kind of like enforce like more violence in terms of ways.
All right. Well, I'll have to give this book a read because I did, enough research on it that now I'm interested. But what are you looking forward to, I guess, most in the next couple of months of senior year?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to try definitely a lot more things. I went to Gilman News, and I went with the guys there, and I've been trying to get involved in that. They assigned me an article that I'm gonna be writing, I think, over like the next week. Basically, like it's like what it means to be a Gilman man, and I'm really excited. I'm excited to write that. I've already interviewed one person, and also just like I really want to like just read as much as I can over the next few months, and also, as I said before, bond friendships. And I have like an entire like reading list, that I want to read, because I feel like I've neglected it kind of over the senior years, and I think a lot of people can also relate to kind of neglecting reading because just reading for fun, reading things that you like.
Anything on that list that you're looking forward to reading?
Yeah. So I have like I believe that's one of them is called like the ritual process. It's about like this have you heard of the concept like liminality? No, it's like so like rituals and liminality is basically like like in the middle, and it's about like how like certain religions, and these are like minor religions. There's like difference between major and minor religions, and that liminality is like the middle zone between kind of like the beginning of a ritual and the end of a ritual, and it's very like it's a realm that like religious studies, which is something I might want to study in the future. It goes into, so I think that I've been interested in that.
So what is the liminality? What does that mean? Is that a peaceful state? Is that a trance-like state?
It's a middle. It's like it means in the middle.
Okay.
So if you think about like certain like ritual, if we want to use like modern terms,
Yeah.
I guess Christmas Christmas you can consider that a ritual or like a rite of passage. You're kind of like passing birthdays and like the New Year. These are all rituals that you could have, and in these rituals, like during the celebration, you're like doing these like practices that pass or like a sign or and are very symbolic of passing into the next phase, which is
Okay.
the next year or the next year
Oh,
of your life.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look in that too. Well, thank you, Leon.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in today, and
Thank you for
best of
having me.
luck rest of senior year, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.